Hey guys, welcome to iNVision Prototypes. I'm Nick. Behind me I've got the M40C project, and as you can see we've got quite a jump ahead. A lot of the roof structure has been done for the wireframe buck, and well, last time you saw me working on the front and rear sections of the buck, and we got those kind of roughed in. Before I used to be able to take these wire frames for the profiles of the glass, like for the side glass, for the front windshield, and move them around. But I've tied everything together now with little braces, in this case here. I've added hoops throughout the roof. You can see the profile kind of taking shape there. So now everything's tied in together and we can shape our metal to this without things moving around. Before, it would be impossible to get anything done because you'd move an inch this way or that way and it'd throw your panel off. Moving on to the front here, we took the structure out, cut all this stuff out so we can get the headlight buckets in. We're using Mini Cooper headlights for this project, and to get them to fit, well, this had to go. So we're going to have to take and reinforce that afterwards. But as you can see, we've got the hoops in for the headlight locations and the top of the fender peak. The front grille, I had to modify that to a degree. The headlight has a nice curve to it, and we wanted that curve to complement the curves of these grills here, the front there. So that's almost all done. Now we have a whole pile of these little braces, and I've laid them all out everywhere. I've been hammering them out all day, and we're just about ready to install them. So I figured you guys could join us and basically watch us finalize all these areas, get them all installed. Like this piece here is going to sit up and actually sit up through here. This one is going to be the lower one down through here. So all this has to be fitted in and basically massaged into place to give us a nice curvature for the sheet metal to sit on. So what do you say we get started and get these pieces installed? So initially I'm going to take and put these in on some light tacks in case we need to pull them out and kind of recurve them a little bit. But they should be pretty close to where they are, but you never know until you actually get the whole profile installed. Okay guys, so as you saw, although these pieces were bent up ahead of time, it kind of fitted to this wire frame. Because the wire frame was moving around, this rod was moving around, even though I measured this one, I didn't install it right away. The next time I measured this one, it was a little bit off. So once I get this one tacked in, I had to readjust this one, trim it up, come back, fit it back into place. Now I'm noticing this one, I'm looking at my line, this one is a tad short. So I need to get this radius, this roll down. It's consistent here, and consistent with this one, but this one's a bit flat through here. So if we lay our sheet metal here, we'll have a low spot here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to tack that, cut that weld there, that tack, bring this piece out and just put a small piece in there instead of bending up a new part. And that'll bring out that curvature just into the right location where we need it. You saw me cut that tack and you saw this piece spring up. And it's now sitting in the right location. It's conforming to these two curvatures perfectly. Here, I have to take and recurve this arch, make this a little more sharp through here, and hopefully, got my fingers crossed, it'll come into contact with the rod where it has to be. If not, we'll just put a little piece in there and move on. Well, unfortunately, we are a little bit short. Just massaging the rod. You don't want to kink the rod anywhere. You want a nice, gentle curve, nice, graceful curve up to where it has to go. So I'm going to actually take a little piece, put it in there, bridge it, and move on. You see the size of the piece I'm putting in, it's tiny. And I'm not that brave to be holding this piece. Perfect. Okay, we'll just grind that up afterwards. Let's move on to the back and get the rear fender done. Let's see if we're a little closer with these pieces back here than we were in the front. So far, so good. I'm gonna have to take these little ends, I've only tacked the top here, take the ends and kind of bring them up, bring the top of that one down, just so they flow with that rod there. You didn't see me do that, guys. It's a bad habit. Okay, one more piece. You see how well those pieces flow in. And voila, I like that. At the body, that's going to be curving inward at the bottom ever so slightly, so this rod already reflects that. And we're going to have to add a secondary rod off of this one. It'll take off on a tangent, and it's going to be the reverse curve that happens on the backs of these cars. These cars have such a beautiful back end, you know. For the 1944, 39 Fords, they really did a good job on the coupes. So we're going to try and replicate that on this one. The proportions are a little bit different on it, but overall we want to maintain the same personality as a 1940 Ford. All right, so in regard to the fuel filler here, the fuel neck, we're going to have a gas door here, and it's going to be probably a round door that'll be blended in with the fender. The thought of filling up inside your trunk, I'm not too crazy about that. Then the owner might, you know, inadvertently spill a couple drops of fuel in there, and that stench, you know, it kind of permeates the car. So we're going to keep the fuel outside of the car. And like I said, we'll create a pocket here to hold this, and we'll create a nice gas door that basically either flips up through a little button on the inside, or you use your credit card and pop it open. So I think that's going to be it for the exterior part of the fender. We're going to jump over, get the other side done, get those pieces tacked in, and then I'm going to start with this next rod here, get this reverse curve started here, and then start bending up all the profiles on the inside between the shoulder line or the body, the actual body of the car, and the fender. So we've got the rod here, and it's got a kind of a funny shape to it because we have to follow this curvature of the fender downward. We have a reverse curve to deal with, and we also have a curvature around the body here. So we have to take into account all those directions with a single rod here. And, well, this is in the way for now, but that's going to just fit right into there. That rolls around. And we're going to come into about midpoint where it meets the body there. So I'm going to get this tacked down here and then fit the rod into place. Okay. Just wanted to catch that weld while it was hot so I can take and bend this rod upward. Okay. It's not looking too bad. Just trying to visualize all the curvatures right now. And this rod here, it's kind of going out a little bit too much. This outer surface is actually out and beyond this lower surface here. So what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to take and nip this weld and just slide this rod inward a bit. This filler neck shouldn't be in our way. If anything, we'll just have to reconfigure it a little bit to move it downward, but it's going to just sit there for now. And I just need to move this whole thing in just a bit here. That's much better now. Okay, we get a clamp on this to hold it for us. Just like that. As I mentioned before, we're not moving mountains. I only moved it about 3/4 of an inch and made a huge difference. Now, you're probably seeing and wondering about this here. We're going to take and shorten the neck up afterwards. That's not a concern at the moment. Okay. Just sighting the body through from here to the door jamb over there. I'll get a stick to show you guys. Okay, this should do the trick here. Get a few clamps. It's a good way to check curvatures if you have a hard time seeing what's going on. You see the curvature that I'm putting into this stick here, the straight edge. It's flowing right into that door jamb over there. Now we actually have to be at this point here because this surface is actually representing the outside of the skin. So the way this is lining up with this rod is perfect. Now this rod here, this needs to be readjusted yet. It's actually coming in, it has a bit of a dog leg here. We're going to have to take and bring that outwards once this line is established. So right now I'm going to start bridging between the fender peak here and this lower area. Once we have everything bridged across, this structure here will support this over here. Earlier I'd mentioned that we had to take this rod and move it in a bit because this surface here was actually growing out past the bottom area here, and we couldn't have that. So in order to do that, we had to take the structure out that was supporting the rod. This structure, the two rods that were here, were placed just to hold the rod, but now that we have all this additional bracing through here, that was kind of redundant, so we took that out. Now I was looking at the curvature of this shoulder line of this quarter panel, and it just wasn't right. It kind of grew out too far. It didn't have that nice teardrop shape that the 40s do at the back. So to correct that, I took about an inch out of the center here and brought that in. But that's shortened this distance for this rod here, and that kind of bulged it up and made it higher than the center, and didn't want that. So took a section out of that, moved that down. Now everything's really flowing in really well back here. This rear tail pan here is going to work out just fine. And just noticing these top corners, if anything, we're going to kind of extend the back out ever so slightly. Don't tell anybody. And you'll never know that there's a bumper back in here. This is going to be finished off, reinforced, and all that stuff later. But this half-inch distance here, once everything's done, you'll never notice that change. So I've just finished off the modifications on the passenger side here, bringing that rod in the same amount. I've made up a few pieces of bracing here, and we're going to get these installed into this area here and basically finalize all of this. This rod is exact same length on both sides, or this flat bar I should say is exact same length on both sides. So what fits on one side has to work on this side. So we might have to kind of maneuver things around by hand just to get everything to fit. But once it's all welded together and finished, it'll all be symmetric from side to side. Okay, so what I just finished installing was the reverse curve that's flowing down through this area here. And got that installed, so now everything's basically done at the back here. We still have a bit of trimming to do for the structure, get rid of all this kind of nonsense stuff here. Just get rid of all that so we can start creating our trunk seal back in here and start tying the body into the main structure of the Mustang. Just going to talk about these pieces of flat bar for a second. These aren't actually going to be features that you're going to see in the bodywork. They're just pieces of metal that help support the skin as we're working it. So you won't ever see this. It'll be one continuous smooth surface from seal to seal, from trunk edge to trunk edge. And this is just a way to support our metal while we're working on it. All right guys, let's move to the front and get that area all finished up over there on the hood. I think I got to increase the curvature of this piece just a little bit more, decrease this one here so it kind of climbs up a bit faster, and I think we can get this welded in place. Now instead of running over the vise, I'm going to do this over this piece of box tubing here. It's basically a support for the front corner, but anything that has an open mouth, if you will, that I can hammer over will create the form I need. Okay, now I'm going to decrease this one a little bit. Okay. Yeah, that's fitting up really well. Okay. Caught me again almost. Oop. You hear the different pitch of the weld, or the rod? That means the weld broke. Okay, we're just going to tack that right there. Good. That looks good. It's on center. All those lines are flowing well. Okay, let's get this side caught up to that side, and then there's two more pieces, one right here, and one same piece on the other side. And we'll get those pieces in, and I think the front will be done. We might, as we go along, add a couple more pieces here and there, but overall, I think we're set. I can't wait to start shaping metal for this project. It's going to be a lot of fun. A lot of work, but a lot of fun. Going to cut off this tip. Good. Again, I got to roll that piece over just like I did on the other side. So what you do on one side, you have to do the other side for symmetry. So once you figure out one side, you're halfway there. Okay, that's looking good. Somebody once told me I should build motorcycles instead of cars because they're one-sided. You should have thought about that for a second more. Okay, we'll tack it right there. I took out half an inch in this spot. Okay, that's it, guys. So that's pretty much it for this episode. I actually wasn't going to make this episode because reinforcing all this stuff, it's kind of boring to watch and boring to do. You know, it's a lot of curves and a lot of fitting and test fitting, as you can see. But you know, a lot of guys are asking how, like, what's the next step? How do we reinforce so these things don't move around? Yes, we got all the main features in, but how do we stop and immobilize everything? And well, here you go. And I hope you enjoyed that. If you did, give us a thumbs up. I appreciate that. And stay tuned for more. I think the next step is going to be to go through, clean up the chassis, get rid of all the sharp edges and everything, do all the final welding. And in the next episode, I think I'm going to start with the door flanges and get those fabricated so we can start with the fabrication of the door and start shaping some metal. Once you get that door skin on, it's going to change the whole appearance of the car. So it'll probably be door skin, rockers, and then rear quarters. But then again, I changed my mind a lot, so we'll see. But I think pretty much we'll be starting with the door skin. Anyway, I'm rambling on. You guys take care. Thanks very much for watching again, and don't forget to hit the subscribe button. See you in the next episode.